Have you ever felt like you're making progress in life, only to find yourself slipping back into old habits you swore you'd leave behind? Do you ever wonder why your intentions don't always lead to action, no matter how motivated you feel in the moment? If so, you're not alone, and this audiobook summary is for you. This is a direct, straightforward audiobook summary of Triggers by Marshall Goldsmith, designed to fit the complete book into a bite-sized format under 15 minutes. I pulled the most important key takeaways from this book and have them here in a clear, engaging way. If you like this content, make sure to like and subscribe. Let's not waste time and dive right in. And make sure to stay until the end. I'll share the 5 most important takeaways from the book and how to start implementing them into your life today. Let's get started. In Triggers, Marshall Goldsmith explores the invisible forces that shape our behavior, often without us realizing it. He argues that the environment we're in plays a far more powerful role in shaping our behavior than sheer willpower or good intentions. No matter how motivated we feel, we are constantly being influenced by external cues, triggers, that push us toward or away from the people we want to be. And unless we're aware of those triggers and actively plan how to respond, we'll fall into the same patterns again and again. One of the most eye-opening parts of the book is how Goldsmith explains the difference between planning to change and actually changing. Many of us have a vision of the person we want to become, someone who is more patient, more disciplined, more generous. But wanting to change doesn't mean we will. The challenge is that we often underestimate the power of our environment to derail our progress. For example, someone might decide to eat healthier, but if they're constantly surrounded by junk food at work, they're much more likely to give in. This is not a failure of character. It's a failure to anticipate triggers. Goldsmith explains that the environment includes everything around us: people, places, circumstances, even our own routines. Some of these triggers can be obvious, like a stressful coworker who makes us snap. Others are subtle, like the fatigue we feel at the end of the day that leads us to scroll endlessly instead of working on a goal. The key, Goldsmith says, is not to blame ourselves for reacting, but to become aware of the triggers and put systems in place to help us respond intentionally instead of automatically. He introduces a concept called active questioning. This is where we don't just ask ourselves what we accomplished each day. We ask whether we did our best. For example, did I do my best to be a good listener today? Or, did I do my best to stay focused? These questions help us stay mindful of our behavior and progress, instead of only measuring success by outcomes. Goldsmith's research shows that people who use active questioning are significantly more likely to make positive changes because they stay accountable to their own efforts. One of the most powerful lessons in the book is that awareness is not enough. We may know our bad habits. We may even know the triggers that cause them. But unless we structure our lives in a way that supports better choices, we'll continue to fall short. Goldsmith shares stories of high-performing CEOs who still struggled with basic behavior change until they started tracking their actions daily. Change doesn't happen by accident. It happens through structure, accountability, and repetition. Goldsmith dives into the idea of environmental design, where we intentionally shape our surroundings to support our goals. This might mean setting up your workspace to reduce distractions, or it might mean having difficult conversations with people who routinely trigger negative emotions in you. It might even mean changing routines, like avoiding certain places or people at times when you're vulnerable to bad habits. Goldsmith emphasizes that we should take control of our environment, not expect it to change for us. Another concept he introduces is the Wheel of Change. This tool helps identify what we want to keep, what we want to eliminate, what we want to accept, and what we want to add to our lives. This is a valuable reflection exercise because not all change means doing something new. Sometimes growth means letting go or accepting what we cannot control. By mapping these 4 areas out, We gain clarity on what actions to take and which battles to stop fighting. Goldsmith also calls out our tendency to blame others or circumstances for our lack of progress. While it's true that triggers exist and the environment is powerful, we must still take ownership of how we respond. He reminds us that fate is the hand we're dealt, but choice is how we play it. Choosing to take responsibility, even when it's hard, is the path to long-term success. One section of the book that stands out is how Goldsmith addresses the myth of permanent change. He argues that we often view change as a one-time decision, but in reality, change is something we have to recommit to every day. It's not something we master and then forget about. He compares it to hygiene. You don't just brush your teeth once and expect your teeth to stay clean forever. The same applies to habits. Consistency matters more than intensity. Goldsmith also explains the difference between triggers we can avoid and triggers we must adapt to. Avoiding triggers might be simple, like removing certain apps from your phone to avoid distraction. But adapting to triggers requires deeper emotional strength. This could be learning how to stay calm when your child throws a tantrum or remaining focused in a noisy office. He shares techniques like pausing before reacting, asking better questions, or reminding yourself of your larger goal in that moment. He offers examples of daily check-ins, where you rate yourself on specific behaviors that align with your goals. The goal isn't perfection, but awareness. Over time, this builds momentum. These self-check-ins give you immediate feedback and make you more mindful of how you show up every day. It's about noticing small wins, staying honest with yourself, and adjusting along the way. Goldsmith also speaks about the role of ego in resisting change. Our ego can convince us we're already doing great, that we don't need help, or that the problem lies with others. But this mindset blocks growth. Humility, he says, is a superpower when it comes to behavior change. Being open to feedback, being willing to admit when we're wrong, and committing to learning is what truly helps us grow. He also dives into the topic of behavioral drift, how we slowly slide back into old patterns without even realizing it. The danger here is not dramatic failure, it's quiet backsliding. That's why structure is so important. Goldsmith suggests setting up a coach, mentor, or accountability partner, even if it's just a friend who checks in with you weekly. He dives deeper into the science behind triggers, including how emotional cues like shame, fear, and pride shape our reactions. Goldsmith explains that many of our automatic behaviors stem from past conditioning, and that unless we reflect on those emotional roots, we'll continue reacting from them unconsciously. He encourages using journaling, mindful breathing, and mental rehearsals to prepare for difficult situations so we can choose responses rather than default to reflexes. Goldsmith also touches on the power of small, consistent actions. He says transformation doesn't come from grand declarations, but from practicing micro-behaviors daily. Whether it's saying thank you more often, avoiding gossip, or taking a few seconds before responding, these micro-changes compound into major results. The simplicity of this idea makes change feel less overwhelming and more doable. Additionally, the book addresses identity and self-perception. Goldsmith challenges readers to let go of old labels and internal narratives that no longer serve them. He suggests asking, "Who do I want to be today?" rather than clinging to past definitions. This mindset shift allows us to stay flexible, adaptive, and focused on growth rather than perfection. Finally, Goldsmith emphasizes the importance of emotional adaptability. He argues that the ability to stay centered during pressure, to reframe failure, and to remain hopeful in difficulty is what separates lasting change from short-term success. Through consistent self-reflection and feedback, we can build resilience not only against triggers, but against the emotional roller coasters of life. Now, let's talk about the 5 most important takeaways from triggers and how you can start applying them today. First, track your behavior daily with active questions like, "Did I do my best today to?" This keeps you honest and motivated. Second, anticipate your triggers. Write them down. Identify when and where they happen so you're not caught off guard. Third, design your environment to support change. Remove distractions, build routines, and surround yourself with people who encourage your growth. Fourth, use the wheel of change to identify what to keep, add, accept, and eliminate. This gives you clarity and direction. Fifth, remember that change is not a one-time fix. It's a daily decision. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to stay committed. To wrap this up, Triggers is a powerful reminder that the world is full of invisible forces trying to shape our behavior. But with awareness, structure, and accountability, we can take back control. If you've made it to the end of this audiobook summary, that means you're serious about taking action. The full book is linked in the description if you want to listen to it in full. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more audiobook summaries like this. And if you listened all the way through, drop a comment that says "Trigger Aware" so I know you were with me until the end. I'll do my best to like and reply to every one of your comments. Until next time.